Hello, everybody. Here is Michael from New Left, and today I have very interesting guest. I'm looking forward to this discussion, and she's not Mikael Nordin. So please, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Sanna Eliasson. I'm from Sweden, and I'm working for an organization called the Olof Palme International Center.
Okay. For how long?
I've been working for about 8 to 9 years, so quite
Okay.
some time.
Okay. I imagine that lots of folks don't know who Olof Palme really was. So can you please give a short bio? What is Olof Palme actually for a human
Yeah.
being? We lefties know him, but even the lefties have blind spots.
Yeah. Olof Palme is actually a very known figure in Sweden, but I would say also abroad. He was Social Democrat, both the party leader of the Swedish Social Democratic Party, but he was also a prime minister for quite many years. He was shot to death, so in a quite bad way, actually, taken away from us. And he's also known over the world because he cared a lot about the world, and he stood up for injustices. So he's very known, for example, in Latin America during the 70s and dictatorships there, and in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa and similar. So our organization keeps his name for everything he did for global development.
And how Olof Palme Institute or Center, it was founded immediately after his death, or it took a while to kind of,
It was actually founded before, but it got the name of Olof Palme a few years after his death. Yeah.
Okay. So there is like 50 years of experience under the umbrella of this institute, or maybe even more. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And what are the main topics you are focusing on? So what is your daily job looking like? What is your, bread and butter that you are doing?
Yeah, I can say a few words about the organization. So we are an umbrella organization for the Swedish, you could say, labor movement, which includes both the labor unions, but also the Swedish Social Democratic Party, the Youth League, and all the organizations connected to the party. And we exist to create development cooperation projects between the Swedish organizations and organizations similar to them in other parts of the world. So, for example, connecting a Social Democratic Youth League with a similar organization, for example, in Africa, or a metal union with a metal union in the Balkans. So we try to work on both levels. We work both with civil society because we believe that it's important to have a strong civil society in a country that needs development, because we need to have people actually push us for changes, because if there are no people pushing for it, there are no politicians that will take the responsibility. But then we also need to have political parties that actually are democratic and that listens to the people and that come with good policies that actually can change the country. So we try to work with both civil society.
You do it globally, outside of Europe, or European Union, better to say, or are you working with European Union countries as well?
No, we work primarily outside of European Union, so developing countries primarily.
Because Slovakia needs some development. So,
yeah, maybe we'll come there soon. You never know.
Well, I hope so.
Maybe the world is turning around.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I live in Austria now. Even Austria needs some help. So, it's like, but everybody needs help nowadays. That's just the state of the affairs. And you concretely, you are responsible for some region of the world, or some part of the social hierarchy in the all things, or what is your daily kind of commitment?
I'm responsible for the party-to-party cooperation. So I'm responsible for all the regions that we have.
So party cooperation, so political things. So not trade unions, not some educational stuff, nothing of that sort, but politics. Okay, exactly. So you are well versed in the political struggles across the globe. That will be an interesting discussion. Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you. So, well, then let's have a chit-chat about what's going on. So, what did you do last time, or what stuck in your head from this year? It's 2025. What did you encounter in your travels and in your daily work?
Well, I see quite similar things actually around the world. The trends are quite similar, I would say, both in Sweden but also abroad. It doesn't really matter if you go to to the Balkans, if you go to Africa, or if you're in Europe today. So I see quite similar trends, and those
Which
trends
are?
it's focused quite a lot on democracy. That democracy is actually backsliding quite a lot. We see that more people around the globe are today living in autocracies rather than in democracies. And that's actually a big change that we're not talking so much about. And this, of course, also have consequences in other countries, that countries are turning more to autocratic solutions than democratic solutions.
Is there any hope? Is there any region that is kind of going against this trend? I'm imagining that South America might be a little bit more hopeful, at least some part of South America, but maybe I'm naive.
And not really. I would say it's the same in all regions. There might be a few cases, a few specific countries here and there, but in general, it's the same trends.
Okay. So this leads to a tough question. What is your theory? Why it's happening?
Yeah, I have a theory.
Well, let's hear it.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at class inequalities in the world and globally, we see that we have actually growth all over the world. We've had growth for a long time. Also in Sweden, we have growth for every year except a few years during the pandemic. So the economy is getting better, but if you look at class inequalities, it's actually growing. It's also growing in Sweden, and Sweden is one of the countries that's been, most equal and best welfare system. And
now, this is one of the discussions I want to have later in the interview, because as far as I know, you are the most unequal country in European Union. So that's not what people would have guessed normally, unless they check the data. Then Sweden isn't the first culprit. The usual suspects are somewhere different than Sweden. But yeah, this is why I wanted to have this discussion, because you can see in Sweden, in my opinion, in kind of like a small country, relatively speaking, what is happening globally, because people live in dreamland, what's really going on.
Yeah, and I think that Sweden is just an example. I think the trends are a little bit similar. It might be differences, of course, but in general, it's quite similar. So we see that there is growth, there is economy, but it's divided very unequally. And this, of course, have consequences, which I think is very closely connected to the undemocratic challenges that we have.
So why did it happen? What happened the last 20, 30 years that suddenly this slide into autocracy started, as you are saying, globally?
Yeah, I think it's a hard question.
I don't think it's something in the air or in the water. This is not the Lord of the Rings. This is something more political.
Yeah, and I think I'm not the one to sit on all the answers, but I think that, of course, a lot of aspects in here. But I think that this is one of the main things, actually, that we have growth, but it's not divided among the people, and people see that the democracies are not delivering on what they need. So they see there are resources, but they're not getting part of the resources, and then they turn to other solutions. For example, undemocratic parties and similar.
This is something that I'm saying as a leftist. I'm not happy to say it, but it's what I said before the interview started, that I'm big on truth, and when it's unpleasant, so be it. We have never lived really in democracy. Even Sweden never had really democracy. In my opinion, that's me. Let's have a discussion about it, because if really we were living in democracy, it would never happen. That's just logical. So what we had is more or less of plutocracy, because as a leftist, what I'm claiming is that because we don't own the productive means, so because the workers are not owners of the companies where they are working, obviously the inequality might start rising the second that political landscapes changes and progressive taxes are cut, and then the scissors of inequality go apart. So this is one of the failings, in my opinion, of the leftists, that we are talking that we are fighting for democracy, but well, we are fighting against plutocracy and we never had democracy. What do you think?
I would say we have democracy, we still have in Sweden, but it's also part of what you actually put in democracy. What kind of
Yeah, we use
policies
that
do you
word, but it's
implement?
not really
Yeah.
that. And I have a few arguments, and I want to run it by you, but please continue.
No, but I also think that it's quite clear also in Sweden when it started to change. You can see it clearly if you look on statistics and if you look on graphs, that it's actually changed in the 70s, 80s. So in Sweden we had quite clear growth, steady growth. But from the 70s and onwards, the growth was not shared with the people anymore. So there were few individuals that got richer, and the general population did not get richer, even though we had a growth. And that's, I mean, of course, depending on the policies, what we implemented then. And I didn't even live by then, so I can't answer for all of it. But it was also at the same time when the neoliberal ideas got very big. So I think that also the parties in Sweden and parties in Europe, for example, also got very influenced by these policies, even also the left parties and social democratic parties and so on. So I think
you had your
that's a big
third wave as well,
explanation.
something like Blair and Clinton and so on in Sweden as well in the 90s or 2000s. You know,
What do you mean with the third
third
wave?
wave? No, third wave was this. The British fellow was called Tony Blair and Bill Clinton in the 90s and 2000s, where they kind of make this devil bargain with the elites because the populace was changing. I mean, in my opinion, what is one of the reasons is that the left couldn't adjust to this change in the workplace, because normally left was strong in the industrial workplace and organizations and whatnot. But when the third sector started, so workers in white collar jobs and services and whatnot, then the whole work market kind of shifted, and the left, instead of kind of adjusting to the new reality, started to accommodate different populace, and that's what the third wave caused. Nowadays, normally 50, 60, 70 years ago, the less educated people were voting for the left. Nowadays, the biggest chunk of people who are voting for the left are the PhDs. So, the culture warriors and everything. So this is one of the third wave manifestations. They don't focus so much on the economic question. And that's why the inequality is rising. So you had something similar in Sweden?
Maybe. Hard for me to say exactly because I was not there. But yeah, but I can see that also my party.
In Germany, there was Schröder, and then he cut it the social net and whatnot. If right-wingers are doing it, then it's sad, but kind of that's their job now. We all know that they are
it
selfish.
was the same ideas here, of course, that they believe that to be more efficient, we need to, cut the welfare and so on. So the neoliberal ideas took over, I would say.
Is there any reckoning? Is there any admittance that, we fucked it up? Or they are still believing because you believe?
I wouldn't say, on a general level, I wouldn't say that it is.
Okay. So this is one of the problems of the left, at least the centrist left, that they are not willing to admit their mistakes, which is kind of sad because that's what adulthood is about, no? To own your mistakes as well as your wins.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was, big part of it, and that those ideas have, been the hegemony for a long time. That is the neoliberal ideas that will make the country more efficient and so on. And then the population has seen that this system in that way is not delivering. So they vote for other parties and for other ideas, especially these populistic, nationalistic parties that we see all over the world at the moment. So I think it's not the same in all countries, but it's similar because it's about the global capital, and that it's not divided equally anymore, and it gets more and more unequal.
Have you ever been in countries like China, these emerging giants, or South Korea or whatnot, or at least are we working with those countries? So really, more or less everywhere is this vibe that nationalism rules.
Yeah.
Even in these spiking countries where they grow 10% a year and pick millions and millions of people out of poverty, they should be singing songs and not complaining about life.
Yeah, but they some countries look at China and similar countries because they have growth. and they have an autocratic country. So they see it actually works. So if they see democracy did not work, maybe autocracy is something that can work. Even if I think it was not the democratic system that's the problem, it's the policies implemented that's the problem. But we see that, for example, in Africa, there are many countries in Africa that look more and more to China, for example. And the problems we also see now is that when, for example, Donald Trump and US aid are, withdrawing from, for example, Africa, there is a lot of space for China to take instead, to be there and to give money and to be nice. So that's a problem that we see also in the development cooperation.
You see it as a problem, because I see it probably more like an opportunity. At the end of the day, China seems to be less imperialistic than US is. At least that's what I'm seeing from everything I've read and whatnot, that China is less extracting, or how to put it, that they want to help them. I mean, they are opportunistic as well. I'm not singing songs about them, but less imperialistic than US used to be, or Europeans for that matter.
Maybe used to be, but I would say it's actually a big problem, because I mean, a lot of the US aid money has actually gone to good things.
No, I'm not saying about, I'm not talking about USA. That's a different discussion. I'm talking about the US business that goes in and buys the mine and exploits the workers in very similar fashion like the local oligarchs. So we are very flexible, we Europeans, with all our baggage from and actually it's happening nowadays. This is one of the interviews we are gonna have in a few weeks with a fella from Senegal. So when I was listening to those stories, what's going on there and what the French are doing today, literally today, that I wasn't proud of them at all, I can tell you. And I'm not naive. I don't think that the other European nations are much more finicky about, exploitation. Just look what's going on in Germany now. They want to roll back the laws they had about these supplier chains that, that's usually how it's hidden, this exploitation, that in the supplier chain, the kids working from 6 years old or whatever are hidden somewhere in the supplier chain and no one cares. So they kind of wanted to make it public and not to use child labor anymore. And now business decided, nah, it's too costly. Children are great workers. Let's use them. So, this is happening today. So I don't have any illusions about the Europeans, no?
But I would say that, I mean, both US and China, they are imperialistic and they have their interest. Maybe they do it in different ways. Maybe the US does it more openly than China. But China has more like of a quiet, not diplomacy, but quiet imperialism.
So they are not like in Godfather, I will make you an offer you can't refuse, like Americans, They just come with a military and what can you do? And there is no discussion. You just say yes, otherwise you're dead.
Yeah, maybe, but China they also do offers that they can't refuse. So they offer to build ports, roads, railways, and for that they also get money. But in that sense, China also gets control over very important infrastructure in big parts of Africa. So it's very strategic by China to do that.
It's a different approach. That's what I imagine. It's less exploitative immediately in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's more like, oh, we will, exploit you for the next century or what. That's what you are saying, yeah? That's the approach. It's more kind of diplomatic, but in the end, it's same evilness and same imperialism.
It's same imperialism because it creates dependency. So for example, the African countries that accepts this deal, they will be very dependent on China for economic reasons for a long time. So yeah. I think both is imperialism, but they do it in different ways.
On the other hand, why do Europeans are not more vocal and helping out? That's the problem that I've seen with the Senegal guy. That I was flabbergasted what I heard, what we are doing today, literally, like this year, last year. It's not like what was going on 70, 80, 90 years ago. So there is room for improvement for us Europeans as well. Huh? That's why they are distrustful, because the baggage from the past and from the present, and China is a new boy on the playground. So let's play with you. Maybe you will be better. Huh?
Well,
Is it like that?
I think it's also part of the trends that I was talking about. That I mean, if the 70s and 80s was the neoliberal, years, now we're in the nationalistic years. So a lot of countries is turning just internal to the internal problems and challenges in the countries, and they don't dare and care so much about what's happening outside of them. So it's like US withdrawing all the US aid, for example. It's very similar trends in Europe, also in Sweden, actually. We see how the right-wing government also withdraw aid, for example, at the moment.
Did they?
And
okay.
Yeah.
All of it or part of it? Because you were one of the shining stars on the hill that you were helping out. I mean, United Nations asked the rich countries to donate 1% of their GDP, and you were one of the few who really are doing it. Maybe not totally 1%, but 0.9 doesn't matter, like next to.
Exactly. So Sweden has been one of the biggest donor countries, and we have given 1% of our GDP to development cooperation. But it's actually changing now with the right-wing government. So they have not taken away everything, but they are lowering it quite a lot, and they have plans to lower it even more in the coming years. But then they're also changing the approach of the development cooperation.
Is the public supporting these policies? Are they saying, yeah, we don't need to spend money on some foreigners, let's bring it home? Or is it like kind of happening under the disguise and they are not making it public and only and few people who are involved in this?
I think some support it, but I think also that the biggest part of the population doesn't know.
They don't,
or doesn't care or doesn't understand.
And if they knew, would they support it, or would they say, now we are rich enough, we should help the weaker people because we are Christians at the end of the day, and that's what Jesus wants us to do, the big leftists?
Hard to say. I mean, development cooperation is not one of the main issues that people look at when they go out voting. So it's not on the priority list.
It's 2% of the public funds, so it's not nothing, no?
Yeah, but I think, I mean, with the growing populism and the growing nationalism, I think there are actually some voters that actually might support it. But I wouldn't say the majority would do it.
What I wanted to discuss is the Swedish situation and the NATO entry, because this is interesting topic. This is after 200 years of neutrality or something in that ballpark, you decided that now we are not neutral anymore. So as paradigm changes go, this was a huge one. So can you please shed some light on this? Because in a few weeks' time, we will have a discussion with a military expert from Germany. So I will be prepared for the discussion, because Sweden is one of the very interesting kind of places where something shifted, as I was saying, roughly about 200 years of neutrality, and now you are in NATO. So how it came to be, is it really supported in the populace? Was it a political decision? Was it a wise decision? Tell us.
It's a very tough question, actually. It's not easy. It's a lot of.
If it were easy, it's not worth asking, no?
Yeah, but yeah. So the different parties in Sweden and different ideologies, they have different opinions about the entrance of NATO.
I'm asking now, that Olaf Palme Institute fellow. I'm asking you, Sanna, what you think. No? Just that you don't have, some, you don't have to have the brakes on.
No, I will explain the history.
Cool.
So the right wing in Sweden, they've been more, pro NATO, and the left wing and the Social Democrats, they've been not against NATO, but against Sweden joining NATO for a long time. And the main reason for that has been, as you said, neutrality, especially US and so on. We don't want to take the side. And Sweden has been, one of the main maybe diplomats in the world, because we've been able to be relatively neutral. Of course, not totally. We also have opinions. And then something changed, of course, when Russia entered Ukraine in their aggression, and the discussion started to be.
It started in 2014, or it started really, really now in 2022?
In 2022.
2022. So before, in 2014, you were kind of still cool with what's going on. Okay.
Yes. So then the discussion started, and also I think the Swedish population got quite afraid of what could happen if Russia would also invade Sweden and so on, because we're we're not that far away.
Mm.
So of course there was a discussion in the also Swedish Social Democratic Party about it, what we should do. Sweden did also look quite a lot to Finland and what they did, because they also are on the border, you could say. And I think that the general population, also quite positive to actually join NATO, because they saw it as some kind of protection.
But in the end, the Social Democrats were the kind of keystone of the decision. If they would say no NATO would be happening and Sweden would be still neutral. So
Yes,
what
that's
happened
true.
in their mind? So they were listening to the populace, or was it like a hasty decision? Because I heard some rumors when I was in Stockholm that that's what we were discussing before the interview started, that they kind of, sell it sweet, but it wasn't as demanded and as sweet as they are selling it. That what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that 40% of the people were for the entry into NATO, 40 were against, and 20 were neutral. And what the Social Democrats are doing, they are counting this 20% of neutral as kind of pro. But yeah, well, that's demagogy one-on-one.
I think they look quite a lot on the population and their ideas, but I think it mostly was a decision to take responsibility. So it was quite a quick decision also by this with the Social Democratic Party, by the top persons.
Now that's another failure. Now that there was no democratic process, that the members of the Social Democrats could voice their concerns, whatever. It was just, and now it's something totally different after 200 years. And if you don't like it, leave.
Yeah, so now we are part of NATO. No matter if you like it or not. Now it's more about what NATO should be for us.
There's nothing to go or nowhere to go. Almost everyone is. I mean, you can go to Austria. As of now, who knows what happened in a couple of years, even here. So yeah. And did dust settle down, and do people accept this new reality that you are in the most militaristic bloc on the planet, and when blood is shed in some countries, you can't even find on the map, and never mind, because that's just life. And we are proud members of NATO, and no concerns, and nothing against nuclear weapons or whatnot. This is another discussion I wanted to have with you, is that as far as I know, only Austria and Ireland, so neutral countries, are against nuclear weapons in the United Nations. There is this 100-something countries signed this declaration. We should get rid of it. Sweden, well, this hope that Sweden will be one of the 3 countries in European Union is gone. Or is there any discussion about that?
Discussion is not very big, but I think that's actually what we should discuss at the moment. I think most people have accepted that now we are part of NATO. I mean, both the general population, but also the Social Democratic members. So now it's more about what NATO should be for us, both nuclear weapons and all of that. I think the discussion is not that big at the moment, and I think it's quite a difficult discussion for the general public. What is NATO actually? What does it mean for us? I think we're more in that process at the moment. Does it mean we have to send Swedish kids or young guys to other countries, or what does it mean for us? I think that's the general idea what people are thinking about at the moment.
How is it with the investment into your army? Is it growing? NATO used to demand 2 percentage points. As far as I know, Sweden was relatively well investing into army even before we joined NATO. So were you about 1%, or because now they're demanding 5%, which is crazy, which I'm looking forward to the discussion with this military lady, because this is like 10% of government budgets. Okay, who needs that money? Social welfare net, who needs that? Nah? Let's build some tanks. That's what saves lives.
No, but that's true. I mean, Sweden for a long time did not invest a lot. I think from the Cold War and after the Cold War, I think, we didn't invest so much in military spending. And I thought we thought we were quite safe also in the European Union, and there will not be so much wars again in this region. But now the spending has increased a lot. So there's a lot of money now.
So you're about 2 percentage points already, or you are hitting even higher numbers, or you don't know?
I don't know exactly what it is at the moment, but I know it will rise over the years. Yeah.
And when you hear 5%, then what? Then your skin get goosebumps, and all of the Swedes are like, only my cold dead body, or is there support even for this craziness?
I think they support it. I think they, I mean, they see what's happening in the world, but the problem is what do you take that money from? Now, how to handle that situation? Should we take it from the welfare system, or who is going to pay for this investment?
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
So is it a discussion? Because this should be a huge discussion among us, a leftist, whether we need 5 percentage points of our GDP to go into that. Well, I have my doubts. The spike in the investment is like 150%, which is kind of, well, Russia is big, but I don't think that they are that big, you know. And B, who pays for it? Should it be the social net cuts, or should we finally start a discussion about, well, there is a lot of wealth in European Union that can be taxed?
I think that there is not a big discussion about it in the general public. I mean, there are some parties coming with some small, solutions for it, but it's not in the center of discussion. And Sweden is also now going to elections next year, so the parties, they want to focus on things that people normally care about.
Yeah, but 10% of your budget in government is something you should care about. So is it a political choice not to kind of bring it into the foreground because it's a landmine and it might explode and no one can control the explosion? Because when people realize that 10% of all the money we have in the government is gone, baby, gone, they will scream, I imagine.
Hard to say, actually, what the political parties think and what the government now, what their strategy is. That's hard to say. Yeah.
Okay. So let's continue. What I was thinking about to ask you, because in the discussion I'm having with people in Slovakia and in Europe in general, the immigration situation in Sweden is mentioned a lot. So something isn't right, and I can I can say it out loud, because when I'm looking at the data, then let's say Stockholm and Vienna, where I'm living currently, Vienna has much more bigger immigration than Stockholm has. We have like 45% of people who are living in Vienna are not really born in Austria, or were not born in Austria. And big chunk of them is from Syria and wherever. And as far as I know, after Germany, Austria was the second biggest kind of importer of those immigrants in European Union. But okay, I'm not saying it's roses and butterflies in Vienna all the time. We have some pockets of violence, but nothing of that sort that is happening in Sweden. So what happened? I was flabbergasted. I was mega surprised when I was visiting that you had such a huge problems. We all Austrians were when we were hearing about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, Sweden has been a country with quite a lot of immigration during a very long time. So I think there are many issues behind the reason to why it's actually we have problems with criminality at the moment, and that's the biggest issue I would say with this. It's not migration itself; it's criminality.
The criminality just boomed, it totally exploded, and youth criminality and stuff like that. So something is broken in the state of Sweden, of Stockholm, or for that matter. No?
That's true, and also that's one of the main. It's one of the main issues actually that people are looking at now when they're going to vote next year. So NATO is not of the things, but criminality is actually one of the 3-4 main top things that they want to discuss and talk about. So yes, it is a problem, and I'm not sitting on all the answers on why it is like that, but I have some theories. And I think it's closely connected to inequality. First of all, I think it's not a migration issue. I think it's mostly an integration issue, that we have not succeeded well with integration in different ways. And that's probably during many years. So both not succeeding
Sorry to jump in. Is it only Stockholm where the the criminality exploded? No. Or is it other countries, other cities as well? So I think Malmo and
Yeah,
So
you find
more or less
it's
everywhere. So where it reaches certain percentage, then the integration just fails. That's what you're saying. It's not Stockholm only.
It's not Stockholm only. It's
Okay.
in several places in Sweden. And I think it's not only about integration, it's also about inequality. So while we're talking about the statistic that Sweden is like one of the countries in the OECD countries with the most rising inequalities, the migrants are of course on the lowest level of everything. You know, they get problems finding jobs and all of that. So I think it's in the base, it's a class problem. So when the immigrants and people on the lowest level of the stairs, you could say, when they feel they have no future, they feel they will not succeed in school, they will not get, you know, a diploma to get a good job, and all of that. They feel they're not integrated in society. It's quite easy to also move into these gangs and to find, you know, money or so in other ways. So I think that's the main issue, I would say. So I think to solve the problem with criminality is not easy, and it's not a simple, quick task. It takes years. But of course, you can do things like harder punishment and all of that most parties are discussing. But I think that most things we need to do is to invest in, you know, better schools, more resources, and all of that to take care of all the kids and see to that they feel hopeful and see that they have a future in society,
And
in
that's the
education,
question.
and all
Why
of
are you
that.
not
Yeah.
doing it? I mean, this is kind of no rocket science. Just look at Vienna. We took in even more immigrants than you did, and we are okay-ish. We had some stabbings, but nothing of that sort like you do. That's, I don't know how
Mm.
many murders a year you have, but it's not like one or two or three. So
Mm.
why isn't Stockholm and the other cities just kind of looking at the data and this is what works, this is what isn't working? Why are you
Mm.
punishing them when you should know? I guess I hope that you do, that
Mm.
this is not the way forward, that this
Yeah.
is a vicious circle, and eye for an eye, as Gandhi said it beautifully, when you play this eye for an eye game, in the end everyone will be blind. So yeah.
No, I think that's the only way. I mean, what we can do is to actually do investments. We should invest in no
No, it's not
welfare
the only
system.
way. No, that's
Mm.
obviously not, because you are not doing it for reasons I don't understand.
No, but we have also a right-wing government that is not investing. They
Okay.
take away resources from the welfare system.
So the Social Democrats are totally willing to do this investment, because this is something I'm seeing in Germany. I don't know the Swedish situation because I don't
Mm.
speak Swedish, but in Germany, the right-wingers are moving into the neo-Nazis kind of mindset. That's the Chancellor Merz nowadays. That's one of the reasons why he's the Chancellor, because he took over the phrases of the neo-Nazis, and even portion of the SPD, so of the Social Democrats, are moving to the right in this particular question. So totally the different approach that is really working, because that's what we are doing in Vienna, and we have problems, but when you look at the data, it's nothing compared with your problems.
Yeah. But that's also the difference between the right wing and the left wing in Sweden, and the policies that we propose also to solve the situation. The right wing is only talking about harder punishment in different ways to solve the problem with criminality. But the left wing and the Social Democratic Party are also talking about, sure, we can do some of that, but the most important things is that we, you know, invest in schools, similar things, activities for young kids and youngsters, so they see a future and they feel needed and they feel part of a group, so they don't have to turn to these gangs.
Big question is, what is the populace in Sweden? Because at the end of the day, the voter will decide. So what are they supporting? Because that's the sad irony and sad truth about these right-wing proposals, that A, they don't work, and B, they are costly, because in the long run, when you don't integrate those people, they will not be working. And when they are not working, then they are just burden on the social net. So no one is winning in the end, no? Because you pay for all the prisons and whatnot. So like as social programs goes, this is not the best one you can come up with to put them in the prison. No? It's better to give them school and hope, and then they will just integrate, and everyone will bring God knows how many millions of GDP growth. No?
I think that the population is quite, looking more to the easy solutions, like the right wing are talking about, that harder punishment, and they're quite angry about, kids being shot more or less every day. So it's an anger in the society that we have to do something against it. And the easy solution is, of course, that to put people in prison and so on. But I think in general, if we can succeed to explain also that this will not solve the situation, we need to do the social investments, I think that people will understand it. But it's on the Social Democratic Party and the left wing to be able to explain it.
Because that's the sad part of this whole discussion in Europe, that the math doesn't lie. And the math says if you do the investment in the long run, you will be profiting. If you don't do the investment in the long run, you will be losing money. So as mathematics go, it's obvious what is the right policy. But I just somehow we are not able, we leftists, to convince the people that it's in the end, it's in your self-interest to integrate them, because they will be taking care of your grandma, or they will collect the garbage, or some of them who are smart will be a doctor or teacher or whatever. So, hey, hurrah that you are here, dear fella from wherever. You just learn Swedish and you are part of our society. We are all nomads at the end of the day anyway, no? You just came to fit Sweden from somewhere, no?
Same problem we have in explaining, of course, why you need to raise taxes, because it's a long-term investment in welfare and all of that and all the positive consequences of it. It's easier to say we will lower your tax and you will get more money in your pocket. So we have a burden, of course, to explain it, but that's what we need to do. But this is also it's a perfect opportunity for this populistic, nationalistic party that we have in Sweden, as I started the talk with, that they are increasing, and what they're doing is that they're turning workers against workers, so normal people against normal people, and to see that it's the immigrants' fault to why we have unemployment, to why there is inflation, to why there are class inequalities and so on, instead of turning the eyes towards the capital and the unequal distribution of it. So that's also what we have to explain. So it's not about fighting each other, it's about looking at the distribution of the money.
This is one of the things that is surprising me, because you have all the tools at your disposal. You have very strong unions, much stronger than everywhere else in Europe, around 60%. So the workers are unionized, the workers can be taught about and explained about what's going on, because, well, that's kind of there. Plus you have all these institutions, they are doing the adults educational activities. So how come that people don't listen? I don't understand it. I understand it in Austria, because we are at 30%, 30, so half of your unionization. So obviously we can't touch the majority of working populace, because 30 is less than 60. So, and it's less than half. So you have even bigger problems with this. Okay, relatively bigger than we do in Austria. And I don't understand why is it failing?
Well, it's failing because the left is not good enough in explaining the reasons and the solutions to it, and the right-wing populistic, especially populist nationalistic party and parties also in Europe, is the same trends, are very, not better, but it's easier for them to explain. They have easier solutions to the problems, to saying, cut the tax, or it's the immigrants' fault. While we have to explain, inequalities, taxes, welfare systems, and all of these long-term investments.
Aren't the unions explaining this to their members? 60% of the Swedes are in the union. So I would imagine that the unions are doing the explaining. They are helping out the politicians, kinda, on the left side of things.
They're trying, but since the populistic parties, they are turning the workers, as I said, against the workers. So there are many workers also in the unions that are part of the unions that also listening to the populistic party. So not all of the unionists are left anymore. And that's a big challenge.
Yeah, but the members, that's another thing. But the trade unionists as such, even they were infiltrated by the right, and you have trade unions that are kind of moving in the right direction, or is it only the membership base?
It's only the members, I would say. But since more and more members are getting maybe right-wing or populistic, it's also, it's also a challenge for them to explain and to say that we are, we need to vote for the Social Democrats or similar to actually get our policies through that are good for workers. There are a lot of members who reacts to that because they don't agree anymore. So there is a challenge, but we work closely between the Social Democratic Party and the labor unions, also now in front of the elections. But it's not easy. We do it, but it's not easy.
If it were easy, then we will be winning all the time. So,
yeah.
That's the challenge. But on the other hand, that's the beauty of this whole undertaking, that it's hard. But that's what I'm saying all the time to people. At the end of the day, this is the truth. Yeah, the truth is, because the data doesn't lie, that if you invest into immigration and the immigrants and they are integrated, the whole society is benefiting, and that's a fact. Yeah. Because the cultural exchange that is happening is helping the locals as well. Not everything that the immigrants bring with them is only cultural baggage that should be kind of tossed away. Many of those things are great. So
yeah, and we actually need the immigrants, because the Swedish society will not sustain itself without them.
Not to mention that everywhere it's shrinking. This is interesting topic. How come that it's shrinking? This is what I think is one of the manifestation of the failure of capitalism, that people don't want to have kids. Like the main raison d'être why we are here is because, well, at the end of the day, we are mammals. we should have children, and a huge chunk of people in the Western societies decide not to. And I don't think that they are against children or whatever. I think that they are against the way how life is kind of running nowadays in our society. So it's capitalism, in my opinion.
Well, it's very, very hard to say, and I don't know why people don't get the kids, but I think there are many different reasons to it. I think that both is a consequence, of course, of developing countries, because you see that the more developed the country is, the less kids you get. Then I think there are some people that
there
see
are
that,
exceptions. I'll jump in because the Israelis are not following this pattern. So they are at roughly 3 kids per woman. So they're actually growing. So, and I don't remember. I think Iceland is hitting almost two kids per woman. So they are more or less safe. So if it were generally true, there wouldn't be these exceptions. So I think it's policies. And I think it's the failure of the social democratic policies, or of all these compromises that they made with capital and social housing and welfare and whatnot, that people don't feel safe anymore to have kids.
Could be, and also maybe kids later in life, because of what you also see, if you look, at least on Sweden, if you look at people living in the cities, they choose to get kids later in life. Maybe because they want to get a good job or get the money for an apartment. And of course, that's harder today than what it was for 20, 30, 40 years ago, when our fathers and mothers were in the same situation. So it's harder for people today and youngsters to get an apartment, to get a job and all of that. So I think it influences.
No, but it's self-inflicted pain. We are richer societies than we were 50 years ago. So it's not by default hard. It's someone made it hard. And so we should address the policies, because we can turn it around, because the money is there. And that leads to a last topic I wanted to discuss with you, and that's the situation of the inequality in Sweden, because I think a lot of folks who are watching and listening this interview don't know that Sweden is the most unequal country in European Union. So how came that to be?
I would say it started there in the 70s, 80s with the neoliberal ideas. And we could also see on what primarily, of course, the right-wing governments have been doing. They've been cutting a lot of the taxes. So they've been cutting the income tax. They've been taking away the inheritance tax. They've taken away the property tax. So this is, of course, a very traditional, conservative, liberal ideas that they have implemented. So with lower taxes, we also have less money for welfare. And we know that the welfare system is helping to make the inequalities less. So I think it's a very, very clear and very easy, what they've done to get their policies through. And this affects us a lot now.
And the general population, do they want to get these taxes back? Or because 2 weeks ago, we had a discussion with one of the most important inequality researcher in Europe. And Jakob was telling us that actually, at least the data he had from German-speaking countries is that people support progressive taxation of wealth. They don't support inheritance tax as heavily, but the progressive taxation of wealth is easy sell. Just explain it to people that you will not be paying anything because you are poor. So there is nothing to take from. But the big guns on the top of the hill, they will be paying heavily, because we were talking about the Piketty taxation in that interview. I don't know whether you know what Toma is proposing, up to 15%, 1/5 of the wealth should be taxed away. So that's literally, after a couple of years, you just cease to be a billionaire or multimillionaire, because, well, mathematics doesn't lie. When someone takes 15% of what you have away every year, after a couple of years, there is nothing to be taxed, which is kind of fair. The Thomas Piketty proposal is 200 million should be the threshold, and everything about the threshold should be taxed away, without mercy. How is the vibe in Sweden when people hear something like that?
I would say, I mean, it's not so easy for the left wing to talk about taxes. So in general, people don't like taxes, of course.
Yeah, but majority of the populace wouldn't pay anything, totally nothing. This is for the rich only,
That's what you have to explain, and look at what kind of taxes that we actually can increase. We are, for example, talking about bank taxes, because the banks are doing a lot of profit at the moment. So I think we have to find some of these taxes that the general population also can accept. I think that the main problem also in Sweden is that the general population, a lot of people see themselves as, middle class, or that they have property, they have some capital on the bank, even if it's not as much as these very rich guys. I think that the general view in Sweden is that we don't see these very rich people. So we don't see the difference. Yeah, they are there.
They are definitely there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be the most unequal country. So that's the. When I'm listening to people talk about it who are expert in this matter, how is it possible? One of the explanation is that the rich are doing very good job at hiding, and they are not so extravagant as the kings used to be back in the days, and everyone, with all the golds and whatnot, everyone saw that, okay, this is totally out of the ordinary, out of this place and out of this world what this fella is owning. But nowadays they are more kind of modest, driving their very normal cars and whatnot, but they are sitting on 20 billions.
Yeah. And that's what we have to explain. That it's not about putting taxes on us all ordinary people. It's about taxing those who have really a lot of money. And that would help Sweden also.
No, I want to hope that Jakob knows the data when he was talking about it, and you can watch the interview if you want, Sana, because we were talking really about inequality, and sounded like people in German-speaking countries support these proposals, like majority does. So someone just has to grow some balls and come up with those proposals, and maybe there will be a bigger support and a big surprise that people want it, because more than half of the population will not be touched at all by the taxes. That's just the sad part of reality, that the wealth is so kind of hold it and hoard it in the top 1% of the society, and 0.1% that 99% will not be taxed heavily, only with 1%, couple of the percentage points. So I'm just daydreaming about the Piketty proposal. If only we were able to kind of implement it in Europe, we could pay for whatever, infrastructure, schools, you name it.
Yeah, so I agree.
What is the situation in Sweden concerning ecology and green growth and what's going on there on that front? You used to be one of the front runners, but I don't know what's going on nowadays, as you are slipping into the right. Do you have a lot of people who say that climate change is a hoax and it's made up, and I don't know what?
Not so much maybe that it's made up, but we have a big shift in Sweden because of the right-wing government, because they don't care at all. So they have a minister for these issues, but she's not prioritizing it at all. So we're like, it's going down, all the, policies, investments and all of that. So we have a big problem regarding the environment.
Yeah. Okay. And the populace is supporting environmental investments and all, because this is my take, how the left should frame it, that we should tax the rich because we will use it to save our asses and B, invest into schools and into hospitals, and who will say, no, I don't want a better schools and better hospitals. And when we are very precise what the money will be used for and used on, then well, majority of people will say, hell yeah, I'm not paying anything and I get better services. As deals go, this is not the worst deals ever.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think that's the solution. I mean, we've seen the last 20, 30 years that we have had less and less taxes. We have less and less money for welfare and all of that. And now we are here with high inequalities. We have criminality and all of these challenges that we have talked about. So the solution is, of course, to do the other way around, that we need more money from where the money is, and the money is where the rich people are. So we need to have progressive taxes and take money where we can and put it to investments in especially welfare, climate, and all of that.
How is the situation now with the parliamentary elections? So how is, when exactly is the election next year? What,
it's in
spring
September.
or September? Okay.
Next year.
Okay. And the general vibe, who's winning, the right, the left, or it's 50-50, or what's going on?
I would say it's 50-50.
Okay.
I think that, I mean, I hope and I think that some people have started to understand and see that, I mean, what kind of policies and what kind of direction the right-wing government is taking Sweden to, and that they are not happy with it. But at the same time, we also have this especially populistic, nationalistic party that, that drives the issues of immigrants and criminality and all of that. So I think it's 50-50 actually at the moment. So I think it's not sure that the left part will win, but I really hope so. Otherwise, it will be even worse.
What about Mamdani and all those nice wins of the lefties in the last couple of months? There were some lefties winning in Seattle. I think Zoran was the most kind of famous one from all the wins. That, I mean, was it making any waves in Sweden or not so much? That
social
these
media,
policies, these social democratic socialist policies can be kind of the solution. And people
hard
want
to know.
it.
I mean, it's been on social media, but of course I also see it because I'm on the left side. I don't know if the right-wing people have seen Mamdani so much, but I mean, of course, we need something similar. We need people to stand up and to create an image of a future that's something else than what we have. People want to feel hope and to believe in something. And if we have people like that, of course, population will vote for them.
Do
but
you
they
have
need to show something new.
Shining rising stars on the left in Sweden? Someone who's kind of like Zoran, came out of nowhere, and a year ago no one knew him, and now dozens of millions of people know him because he's so charismatic. So is something like that emerging in Sweden?
Not as I've seen, but I hope.
Okay.
Since you said many didn't know about him, I hope you're there. So maybe soon there is someone.
No, fingers crossed that that you will be successful in September and turn this around, because Sweden used to be, I'm from Slovakia, so Sweden used to be one of the countries we were looking up to. And in 1968, we were trying to implement the changes in Czechoslovakia back then the Scandinavian model, and particularly Sweden, maybe Olaf Palme was back then the prime minister. Definitely that was the go up to model, and you are losing your mojo. So please find it, because the world needs your mojo back.
Yeah, we need our model back as well.
so break a leg, stay healthy, and maybe next time in a couple of months after the election. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.